Welcome to the Meeple Syrup After Show. Designers discussing design. We're on episode 79. We're really on the after show. And we're talking summer lovin'. Yeah, it doesn't seem like summer if you look outside in Canada. You might see snow. But
Oh my God! Don't start about the snow, please.
but it is.
Ottawa's got hit.
It is.
I was gonna get sushi tonight.
Oh, that is a tragedy to miss out on sushi because of the snow. That makes me want to have sushi right now, but I'm instead here with wonderful people talking about games. And for Meeple Syrup, we're about to take a break. So you're really our most honored guest because we wanted to spend our last moments with you before we went on our summer break.
I did not want to spend with my last moments with sushi.
So
I'm just
Gord,
saying.
I think Gord actually has a question to start our after show.
Yeah, well, I was just amazed at that interview at Rob having to suffer through people wanting to not give you more freedom and artists more freedom. To me, that you realize your limitations, you join a group to try to create something beautiful, and you hand off, you delegate what you don't do well yourself. It should be elementary.
Right. I mean, okay. So this is a weird sort of thing. I mean, a lot of people find themselves in this weird sort of situation where they may be presented with an opportunity to do something that they are not particularly good at. And they may think to themselves, I can maybe do this, and they maybe might do it. But as an artist, the situation is, I don't know if it's different or not, but I treat it as different. As an artist, you are only as good as your last contract. And if you take a contract and you really screw it up, and it's not good, and it doesn't read, and it's not appealing, and it's just not, it's not your best, you have hurt yourself by taking that contract.
Yeah, you're basically diluting your brand.
Right, you are. Because, like I said, your brand is, it's not truly only as good as your last contract, but if you do a really crappy job of your last contract, people will remember that for way longer than your next or possibly two next contracts. It's not worth it.
That, and everybody seems to be able to have an opinion about art, not like you can have an opinion about. You can't have an opinion about brain surgery a lot of the time. You can't have an opinion about.
You're right. You're right. I mean, people do, and here's the thing: is I try to express this to people all the time because they, people approach me and they say, "Well, this person has never done art, so their opinion of art doesn't matter." That's not true. And I don't know that this is a thing that spans other aspects of game development or of anything. But of art, it does, because as human beings, we consume art on a daily basis. We consume it on television, we consume it in magazines, we consume it in literature, we consume it in board games, we consume it everywhere. Okay? We consume it in a lot of different things. It's not always visual art, but it's art. And frankly, we consume a lot of visual art. Like, a lot. If you own a television, you consume visual art in a huge amount. Okay? And just because you don't produce physical art does not mean you don't have a valid opinion on physical art. And if your art sucks, people will know it. And they will express that opinion in the form of not paying for it. It really is the thing. If your art sucks and the game is good, I mean, okay, we had a discussion about this about a year ago on Twitter via the oh god, what is the board game thing? It's I can't remember. Right, it wasn't Board Game Geek. It was another thing.
Board Game Forum.
It was on Twitter, specifically on Twitter.
It was
Designer Hour?
Board Game Hour.
Board Game Hour. Yeah, I was there with you.
About art. And a ton of artists and a ton of consumers express the fact that if a game doesn't have decent art, they don't care. It can be the mechanics can be great, the mechanics can be solid, but if the art isn't there, if the theme isn't there, they just don't care, because there are other games that provide that aspect that they're looking for.
I want to
actually I want to hear Gord on that.
Well, I was gonna bring in Gord. I was gonna bring in Gord because the point was Gord was talking about the game as art, which is something that I always like to bring up.
Yeah.
And like a game is art that you paint on the brain of your players. Like it's art. So Gord, go for it.
So for me, I look at beautiful game designs like Avalon, like Star Realms, like Go, and all of those. Does the art add to it? For Avalon, absolutely, especially for the people I'm playing with. I could play an abstract version of Avalon where I know that I'm on the good team and that I'm not Merlin. Maybe that's all I need to know. But for most of the people that I play with, the art has to be central, not just the mechanics, but the art.
You're right, though. You're right, because I mean, a lot of people think of art and mechanics as like diametrically opposed, but they're not. They should work together, because and not just thematically. Thematically is a huge deal. The very first thing someone notices in a game that is maybe not well paired as far as art and mechanics go is that like they might be diametrically opposed. As be like, wow, this is weird. The theme doesn't fit, or the mechanics don't fit. Right. That's like the first thing they might discover. But even beyond that, even if they are not opposed, if they don't work in tandem, there's a difference between being opposed and working in tandem. If they don't work in tandem, then it's actually harder for someone to learn a game. It's harder for someone to remember the objectives during a game, and it's harder for them to end up actually achieving any kind of success in the game.
Oh yeah, art informs gameplay. It can, right? Just like theme can inform gameplay.
Right. It doesn't have to, but it can.
Yeah.
It's good.
And when it does it well, it's amazing. When it kind of it's that cognitive dissonance that you'll get when you look at a piece of art and you look at the game and you go, this doesn't fit. That's what psychologically we'll call it, is cognitive dissonance. That there's really an ill fit. And really that goes back to what you were saying in the other show, Rob, when you know that your art isn't going to support that game well because that's not the kind of artist you are, or you're not capable of producing the art that would do this game justice.
Right.
You're looking at your own cognitive dissonance in that case, where it's like you're feeling that feeling of uncomfortableness. That's what that is psychologically.
Right. And then a lot of artists will feel that as lack of confidence or lack of experience or something like that. But like, I mean, all those things matter. If you feel those things and you know somebody who can do better, then it's valuable. It's still, that's important. It's still valuable for you to pass that on to someone else. Yeah. If you don't know someone else, then sadly it's not valuable to you to pass it on, but you still might need to.
Yeah.
And with that, gentlemen, I'm going to have to cut out because I've got to get my daughter to learn a poem that Victor Hugo wrote about spring. So
I like spring.
Spring would be nice.
Is that like Hugo the movie?
It's something we have here in France. It's amazing, and it happens earlier than it does in Canada. I've never experienced it.
We have it in Canada too. It lasts 2 weeks.
It's under the snow.
And it smells like poo. It's terrible. Spring is terrible.
No, it smells like asphalt.
Anyway, thank you very much, guys. I'm out of here.
We'll see you later, Dylan. So we'll have to work on our plans for dominating Indianapolis, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, good. Okay.
Rob, one of the things with Santorini right now is that there's its history is pure strategy, and so we are getting pulled by a minority of people who like the pure strategy Origins, and for them the art that is all frivolous and the gods going crazy is not as nice as the old Roman nudes, the Greek sculpture nudes that were part of the original game.
I'll say I'm that guy, for instance.
Yeah.
I
Me as
love
well. I
love
want a clean
the
version of it.
elegance of the simplicity. It echoed what I thought the design was, so I want it in its aesthetic as well. And not that I don't appreciate, and I think it's even showing very successful, the art direction. I think actually a lot of people are being exposed to a game that maybe they wouldn't have looked at
Oh,
if
I mean,
it was
definitely, right?
simple. I think the marketing has been very successful and well received by many,
Yeah.
but as part of the minority, where I appreciate an abstract game, I look at an abstract game differently than I look at something that's more thematically rich. I was very comfortable with just diving into the game as a test of my brain.
Yeah.
Rob, have you ever got into a discussion with someone saying you can go two ways on this game? You can either appeal to this market or you can appeal to this market, but you cannot make everybody happy.
Yeah, I have, actually. And sadly, that was the very first board game I ever worked on, and that was Dungeon Roll, right? Yes. That is a very real thing. And trying to center my thoughts here. Because this is a very seriously a complex issue.
It is.
And my opinion on it is not law. But I will tell you about what I experienced. Okay. So when I worked on Dungeon Roll, and Dungeon Roll was it was the very first incredibly successful thing that I worked on, and being as so, I thrust myself into it whole hog, including the comments on the Kickstarter, which at the time I thought were incredibly valuable, and I do think that comments on Kickstarter they continue to be valuable, but I took them to heart in a big way because I didn't do the character art in the original Dungeon Roll.
Mm-hmm.
I was art directing it, which kind of made it worse. And
I get that. I totally get that.
Right, and what happened was that one of the artists that I was working with did a paladin, and I wish I had taken more time to look at the paladin. But the paladin had kind of a low cut front. And I experienced a lot of other art in my life, including a lot of Blizzard art, and I didn't think twice about it. However, our fan base did.
Right.
And they thought, hey, this is inappropriate for a paladin. And then when I thought about it, I was like, actually, yeah, that's true. You're extremely right about it. Like 100%. And so we made the call to change the art. Now, little did I realize that making the call to change the art gave validation to pretty much everyone's concerns ever.
Right.
Which is why focus groups are important.
Yeah.
They really are. They really are.
I don't think we do enough of that.
We don't.
History.
We do not, and we need to. Because you need to expose that to a bunch of people who are not emotionally involved in any particular part of the rules or the art.
And who aren't core gamers necessarily. I mean, core gamers are great for playtesting, but for actually everything else?
Right, just the first reactions.
They're blind, like you said. I played Blizzard games since Warcraft.
Right. And so it's like, a girl in a bustier, whatever,
Yeah, it's
right? But in a board game, that matters. There's a ton of female gamers in board games.
Absolutely.
The ratio of female gamers in board games is much higher than in video games. That's just a fact. And if you want to make your game, now here's the thing: you don't have to make your game available to all of them. But if you want to, then it should matter to you. And as an artist, it should matter to you in general. Okay, I'm not joking. This is a really big deal. Okay,
yeah.
If you want to be a competitive artist, you want to be a person who delivers art and games to everyone. This should matter to you. Okay, and you should look into things, because when it happened and we changed it, it opened the floodgates to everyone who wanted to change.
Yes.
And there were a couple of changes that were suggested that I thought were kind of ridiculous. And the reaction to that feedback to these people was not preferable.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, and this happened right before our Kickstarter. I believe it was right before the Belfort expansion.
It was, and it was rough. It was really, really rough. And one of the worst. And here's the thing, and this is a personal experience, but I want to share it with you guys, because as an artist, this will matter. I don't know if anyone is listening who's an artist, but if you are, this will matter. The worst experience I had with something related to this was during the same Kickstarter, and with someone that I considered a personal friend.
Ugh.
And I did not understand her political / social leanings. And a piece of art I approved from someone who had such a minor, and I'm really being honest with this, minor. What's the word I'm looking for? Variant from what she would have expected from that character.
Or accepted, right?
Right. Caused some backlash. And then I made a silly comment thinking that she thought that it was actually the most ridiculous thing that she could comment on.
Yeah.
Caused a major issue.
Right. So basically you kind of discounted her feedback.
I did, and that's not okay.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
Not okay. Not okay for me to do.
Right.
But at the same time, I thought it was someone who was my friend. I thought she understood what I was doing, and I didn't, right? But here's the thing. As an artist, don't rely on that stuff. It's not okay. You really do need to have, and this is the thing that really sucks for a lot of artists, you really have to have a good grasp of what's going on on the internet, what's going on in the world in general when you do art. It sucks. I understand that. I've been through it, but you need to do it. It matters.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, even this week with Action Phase Games and their incredible Kickstarter, Aeon's End, which, we have a fun backstory. Sen actually had a hand to play in that publisher and designer finding each other. But one of the awesome things they did in the development process was they came up with a universe and story that actually involved some really, awesome kick-ass women, and in the different roles in the game, and then sadly they got trolled and called out and smashed for having women in predominant roles, which is opposite of many games, and so they got the reverse slam of from trolls.
I mean, luckily nobody supported that person.
Thankfully, yeah, very quickly that thing was taken down.
The verbal minority matters. Unfortunately. Yeah. I mean, you look at someone like in the video games industry, the person who made the big complaint about in Overwatch.
The buttock shot.
It was an over-the-shoulder shot, and it was not over-sexualized. It really wasn't, but they made a big deal about it. And
I don't even know if. Well, the person who made the comment just said it didn't fit with. What's the person's name? It's not Thrasher. What's her character? But
Oh my gosh.
I know. Anyways, it didn't fit with her character. Is what
The sad thing is it does. And she's a playful character and stuff. And I mean, look, okay, I'm gonna present this from a place of a person who thinks a lot about this kind of stuff. Okay, like I mean, that's my job. It really is, and take it or leave it wherever you want to be. I mean, I don't discount someone's opinion either way on things. I'm being super political about this, but I mean that's the place I find myself in a lot of the time. For someone like Tracer, right, who is a playful character, the over-the-shoulder shot fits with her character. It does. She is, she's a fun character, and she's upbeat. She's kind of perky and stuff like that. And it did not over-sexualize anything. This person was just trying to garner some following on the internet, and it sucks that they did it. But at the same time, I want to express across the board for people that this kind of stuff is. It's not one-dimensional. Try to think of it from multiple aspects, right? I mean, women and men work very hard for their appearances and stuff. Sexuality is a human thing, right? On top of everything else, like any kind of aspect of human endurance, human performance, any kind of aspect of achievement should be celebrated and not detrimented. It sucks that the person tried to latch onto the negative side of the internet for this kind of stuff, because I don't feel like it's right. I feel like if you guys are out there and you agree with me, I hope that you guys would celebrate achievement rather than trying to drag it down, no matter what it is, no matter whether it's physical, whether it's mental, whether it's achievement based. Don't shy away from someone's achievement just because you don't have that, or because it might be viewed a certain way. That's not okay. Celebrate achievement. Don't drag it down.
Nanania on the feed is saying that the new Tracer end pose is literally a pin-up pose now.
And that's worse.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, so I don't know.
Because the original Tracer was not worse. It was fine.
If you go online and look for the original Tracer pose, she's doing an over-the-shoulder kind of victory pose, and yes, the buttocks are showing in it, but if you go look at it, it's not like highlighted in any particular way. It's pretty asexual.
It's really the razor point of the issue. It really is.
Yeah. Gord, there's a question here for you. Do you have a tip for helping to make sure your game is balanced?
As a pure strategy game designer, I find it very efficient to playtest all of my own gods. I can do it by moving around the table. So 2-player strategy game, I'm at this side, and then I'm pretending like I'm playing the other side. And I can go through a large number of gods and experiment a large number of times, much, much faster than having somebody else involved. So that's unique to pure strategy games, where the rules are nice and simple, and I can tweak them and tweak them and tweak them again.
In that case, is there a best move usually?
No, it's a matter of balance. So for example, one of my tough things to balance was Artemis, who can move 2 spaces, versus another god. Right. If I say that Artemis can move 2 spaces, period, that's one power. If I can say Artemis can move 2 spaces to a different space, that is a significantly different power, and that small tweak needs to be balanced. So I also look for simplicity in language. So that's the other side of this. It's fine to balance gods absolutely perfectly. That's not realistic. You need to also make sure that you can communicate those gods with as few words as possible.
Yeah, see, I'm balancing stuff right now. Yeah, I got your back.
That's great stuff.
That's
Whoa.
something that is relevant across just board game design, but also, video game design. Like I've been working, okay, I don't know, not working, but I've been playing some games that are from alpha development into beta for video games, and they experience the same stuff. Like the intent might be there, and then somebody decides to break it by doing something unexpected with it. And as a game designer, the immediate assumption is, oh, you must have thought of that. This is balanced, right? But it's not, right? It's not. Like, you intend a certain thing, and then someone goes, oh, but I could do this. And they break everything.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point of playtesting, though. I mean, typically, and Gord, this is a good question for you. So I'll give you an example. So when we're making games that are asymmetrical, so not like literal balancing games, but games where there's asymmetrical characters or powers or things like that, typically what I do is I go for a balance straight off, like spreadsheet-wise, do the math. Then we play, and then we nudge stuff around without doing the math, and then we might later on figure out after playtesting that we need to go back to the math and actually go through the spreadsheets again. Do you use spreadsheets a lot in your design? Do you do a lot of mathematics? Or based on the types of strategy games that you're building, is it less about the equation and more about how it plays in that space?
I rarely use math overtly in my game design. My latest really good game, Tiananmen, is an exception. In that game, you have from years ago, I learned that a square, if you populate it randomly with points, you need about 60% of it to be full before you can find a fractal path from one side of the square to another. So I used that mathematical nugget to make an asymmetric strategy game. And so but most of the time I don't use math. I would never use a spreadsheet for actually computing different options, because with a pure strategy game design, I'm not looking for tweaking this number from intelligence 3.7, strength 5.2.
Exactly.
I'm not looking at that in a pure strategy game. I'm looking at.
I have a question. I have a question. If you had to choose between mathematical balance and physical gameplay with interaction of the components, what would you choose?
Oh, good question.
Physical gameplay with interaction of the components. Say that in different language.
Right. Okay.
That is such a Gord. That is such a Gord.
All right. Yeah, that's a good response, because that is super open-ended. Okay.
Or
let's say. Well, I got this one. Let's say you had a game largely based on cards.
Sure.
Would you err in favor of the values on the card, or the way a person interacted as far as flipping or rotating a card was concerned?
Oh, okay. So physicality over mathematics.
Right.
Okay. I guess it depends on the outcome or the feel that I want. I look at game design from UX.
And to be clear, this is for all three of you, because all three of you, I think, are going to have a unique answer.
Yeah. And so my answer is it depends. I'm giving you the cop-out answer. But if I had to pick one, I know my brain would want to go mathematics because I strive for balance a lot. But my heart would want to go with interesting physical interaction, because I think that's cooler. But that's also harder, because it's more innovative, I think, to use cards in different ways.
Daryl next.
I would definitely say the physicality matters more to me for an experience, but I kind of echo maybe a little bit like Sen in that, I would want, the skeleton in the background to have some mathematical balance, but what draws me to a game is not the math, even though I love math. What draws me to a game is something interesting. So I need to see a card do something cool, and then I go, oh, I want to try that. I want to play that. I want to do what it does, and maybe it's totally unbalanced and yet fun. Well, all right, I'll try that. So that would be my answer.
Gordon.
I'm going to interpret the physicality as intuition, and for me, the mathematics and the intuition are both absolutely essential and at the highest level. So Santorini is one of the greatest games I've created because it's intuitive. You can step up just one level. You can't just jump up 2 levels. So this is based on how people climb stairs. So there's it's built in to how the game is physically played. The intuition. Yes, this is how we walk around the world. You can move diagonally. I did try this game out on a hex board. It didn't work well. That would have been a little bit better on the intuition side. But I'm both are absolutely essential for me. I had a blind.
You know what? The nice thing about that is I got kind of an even spread on that stuff. I really did, but that's actually telling. I mean, the weird side of things for me as someone who creates art, and I don't know if this matters to anybody else, but I feel like it's interesting, is that
art matters.
Right, well, it does, but also someone who develops art matters, right? For me, I'm going to put my 2 cents in. The way someone interacts with components matters to me the most, right? Because, and this is the thing, is I honestly believe that because I rely on someone who develops a game to do the math side of things, to do the kind of stuff that I can't do as well, right? And so for me, I want someone who is developing a game to understand the interaction of the things that aren't physical, because I can lend my expertise to the physical interaction with things, right? And so, that matters to me. But when someone does present me with a way to interact with things, and this happened with Dark Dealings, right? The way that things interacted, once I fully understood how the cards interacted with the game, I realized there's nothing more I can do with the graphic design, right? Like it just works. So both sides of things matter to me as an illustrator and a graphic designer, is that understanding the physicality of the cards and maybe even explaining that to your artist can really matter.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. How the game is played, or how the cards have to be splayed in your hand, or what's the optimal position for things. It dictates a lot of iconography, dictates the layout from a graphic design point. And I just want to go back to Gord's point. I think a lot of what you're talking about there, Gord, is almost like it's like making the math transparent. There's math in there, but you don't have to actually know it or do it to play the game. Is that what you're getting at? Were you talking about intuition and stuff?
Of course, it's. I mean, you don't brag about mechanisms. You just build the mechanisms and make them as transparent as possible and make everything as balanced. And that should be totally separate. You can optimize that totally separately in many, many games from the physicality. So there's no excuse not to have both in most games. Mm-hmm. There should not be a compromise here. One of the most interesting emails I got during this Kickstarter was a person who had a blind sister, and he was wondering, is this game good for his blind sister? And I responded a strong yes, but not with these components. The old abstract strategy game where maybe even with taller bricks, she could actually push down on them and maybe get a three-dimensional perspective and maybe shrink the board a little bit so she only has to memorize a 3x4 board. That makes me happy physically, that I think that could be done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and a good developer will think about that stuff. I believe it because I have voiced that kind of thing to people in the past where I said, hey, have you thought about people who are colorblind? Right? I mean, and this is a unique thing for our for our development cycle, is that a lot of board game developers, they want to be inclusive of people who maybe are colorblind or are completely blind or whatever. Like, these things matter to those people because things that are more mainstream, like television, video games, they are not accessible for people who are completely blind or partially blind, right? Whereas some board games might be. And I'm not talking the kind of thing being, look, I'm not telling board game designers and board game developers that everything needs to be in Braille. That's not the point. Okay? But some games may be accessible to people, and if it's within your reach and within your development reach to do it, then do it.
So just on that note, I'm getting a note from Michael of Armada Games saying he has a blind board gamer that comes to the store. It's difficult finding games he can play. Just wanted to let people know that if you look up 64-ounce games, Richard Gibbs makes kits that will help adapt a game for people with blindness or low vision. So
can you put a link or type that into chat?
Yeah, I'm doing that right now.
And also, there are a few games that are in development that I recently got to play test, even at Board Game Geek, that Gil Hova, Ian Zhang, Richard Gibbs are all developing that are fantastic games that if I played some friends that were blind, they might be better than me at these games. So I look forward to when they come out so we can tell more about it, because some of them are private, but they are great games.
Definitely have Richard on the show at some point.
Yeah, they're great games already, and then on top of it, they are accessible to different people that may not find certain games accessible.
And that's awesome. I really enjoy that.
I have to go, everybody.
Yes, thank you so much.
Have to go. So.
Sticking around with us there, Gord.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, Gord. Have a great night.
Yeah, see you later, Gord.
Take care.
No problem. So it's www.64ounce OUNCE for those Canadians who don't know how to spell ounce.
Ounce? What even is that?
I don't know, actually. I really don't.
Is that like one of those things where they measure with a nut or something?
Yeah.
Oh, there's a question up here for you, Rob. Nananea asked, for Rob, how do you deal with super picky clients? How many edits are too many edits for an independent artist? So kind of flowing off our last little bit.
Right. Yeah, so Nana, how many edits are too many? That's a really good question.
One.
Actually, the truth of the matter is that I rely on a client offering me 2 to 3 edits for about 5 pieces. That's really abstract, right? But it's kind of what I have come to rely on based on my experience.
No, when you say rely, what exactly do you mean? That you want that?
No, it's not that I want that I predict it.
Okay.
That in a set
for your workflow.
Right, for my workflow.
Okay, thank you.
That I'm willing to allow 3 to 5 edits, or about 3 edits on. It's 3 to 5 edits on 3 pieces. I can handle that. Anything beyond that, it starts stretching my budget. Mm-hmm. Because I kind of rely, and this is, I don't want to come across as being arrogant or something, but I often rely on not getting edits for my work, but I always try to put in enough time to do, maybe 5 to 7 edits. Usually 5 to 7 edits, if they're small, won't harm my quote.
Right, and your quote, we're talking time, because
Right.
in your business, time is money. It's not materials, it's time.
Right. It's the only way that I can do it, and the way I try to organize my quotes is that someone presents me with the amount of work that they need, and I think to myself, how long will it take me to do this without quotes, without revisions?
Right.
Because I have to assume that I'm going to do it right the first time. I mean, that's kind of a thing for an artist.
Right, and then the rest of it's padding to allow
and then
for those edits.
I tried to find some padding in some of the areas where it might make sense to do, because, okay, speaking real again, for any artists out there.
Hashtag real talk.
Right. Artists out there, if you do not allot yourself some time for error, you are kidding yourself. No one is perfect. No one can do art 100% approved every time. It just can't happen. You need to afford yourself some breathing space. And this is one of the things that artists are the worst at, affording themselves breathing space. Most artists want to assume that they will never make a mistake. You are lying to yourself. Artists make mistakes, and that's okay, because you're human. It's all right, and you should try to include that in a small amount in your quote. And I understand all you guys who are out there trying to make a competitive quote, trying to make sure you get the contract instead of someone else. I do understand that, but if you don't allot yourself at least 5 to 10 hours of error in your work, you are going to suffer. You're going to be working for free, and there's nothing worse for an artist than working for free. So please be realistic with your quotes, because nothing is worse than not being realistic with yourself.
Yeah, and it's funny because we just worked on even making a board with my friend Ron. And he's a very experienced graphic designer, but he's never done a board game before, illustrator, graphic designer, cartography. And so he had to really build his quote smartly, because there were a lot of changes that we asked for, because it's like, okay, that's not going to translate on a board. And it looks great on a map, but as soon as we start folding it into a board, then there's stuff that goes on the fold lines. And so it was a really good learning experience for him. I'm not sure if his quote actually stood up to his expectations. I haven't asked him that yet.
I'm gonna be real with you guys. Most quotes that artists provide don't stand up. We lose on almost every contract.
I believe that.
I believe that. I mean, designers do as well, right? So
because we have to, because it's either that or let a client get away.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. Hey, look at this. If you look at the 64-ounce games, I'll show you actually. If you look at the 64-ounce game website, you'll notice that there's a little bit of Rob Lundy and Sen-Fong Lim, Jay Cormier love up in the corner there.
What's going on there?
So they've made it accessible to people with visual impairments by adding an embossed layer on top.
Awesome.
See that?
That's
right
good.
There. So that plus sign there is actually tactile.
That's good. I want to see. Like, that's awesome for this particular game. I would love... Okay, right there. I can see it. There is Braille underneath the actual text.
Yes. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so you can see the Braille.
I want that in more things, right? Because Braille does not affect art too much. It really doesn't. Game developers.
It's actually, so I worked for CNIB for a long time. So there's a lot of... You can make it on transparent plastic because you don't need to see Braille to read it. The problem, though, here's the problem, and this is just me getting really deep on Braille, is that not as many people know Braille as you think.
Right.
It's actually kind of a dying art as well. It's a dying language with computerized technology and things like that.
Right, because you can just hear it, right? Like it's
so most people use like a screen reader and whatnot. So a lot of my friends in the community, they're predicting that it's going to be a lost language.
Well, then I'm
gonna
make a plea out to both artists and developers. Find a commonplace thing that a smartphone can read to your clients who cannot see.
Yeah,
okay?
we've been talking about that as well. Like
QR codes are great and stuff, but find something visual like Braille and make it happen. And tell your artists.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. So I'm really happy to see that Richard's doing that, and
It looks awesome. I like it.
Yeah, I'd love to see more of it. It's just it's a very niche market for a niche market. So
it really is, and
it's a labor of love for him.
At the same time, as niche a market as it is, excluding those people, that sucks because they're excluded from so much already that there's no need to exclude them from things like board games.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Anything else you guys want to talk about for the last couple of minutes before we shut her down? Because it's after 1. So
it's after 1. I'm going to bed. This is terrible. I need to sleep because I have to stream in the morning.
True.
Hey, Rob, are you accepting contracts?
I'm in a weird place. I would like to accept contracts right now. I'm in a weird place where I'm waiting for a ton of contracts to kind of manifest themselves in money.
Right.
Which is a weird thing. But I'm in this weird place where April is bizarre for me, and I'm waiting for a lot of contracts to get going because Unpub is happening soon, and a bunch of people are waiting till after Unpub before they make any commitments to things.
Sure.
So I am, but to be perfectly honest, at this point, it's probably going to be a month or 2 out before I'm able to get started on stuff. But if you guys are planning stuff like that, please let me know. Swing by my Twitch stream, twitch.tv/MoltenInc, MOLTENINK, or stop by moltenink.com and drop me a line through my form email.
Excellent. Daryl, any last words before you head off tomorrow?
Nope. You heard it here first. Rob is open to making your game better.
Yeah, man.
Take him up on that offer.
Miscellaneous noise.
Miscellaneous noise. Everybody needs miscellaneous noise. Oh, Rob, I just wanted to ask you, what's your fascination with Orcs Must Die?
I love Orcs Must Die. Orcs Must Die. I've been playing that since Alpha, and the art in that game is super inspiring for me. Yeah, and the game is
Rob art.
The game is free. You should go to Steam. If you have Steam, you should download Orcs Must Die Unchained. It's amazing.
Isn't that Fight Master? Isn't he involved with that somehow?
Probably.
Yeah, Brian? Neff? Yeah, I think that's the game the company that he works with makes.
Yeah.
There you go. It's a fun game. It's free to play, and I've been playing since Alpha. It's a ton. It's honestly a ton of fun. You can play single player or multiplayer co-op or PvP if you so choose.
Cool. Nifty. All right, so guys, we're signing off. This is the last after show for a while.
Sen wants to go play with that string he's been playing with all game.
Well, I have to get this ready for gathering, so I'm in the same boat as Daryl.
Stop playing with your string. What is that? I need to know.
It's the expansion for junk art. So
look at the string.
They're connected by string pieces, and you have to use them in different
nunchucks.
Like stacking nunchucks. Yeah.
Okay, if you are part cat, you want this game.
Exactly. Yep. Apparently, Rob is part cat.
I am.
So yeah, so we're gonna be gone for the summer-ish. September will roll around sooner than we think. Con season's upon us, so Daryl and I will be spending a lot of time at cons. We'll try to get some content up for you. We can't promise. Really, what we're promising.
Content, because con season, I like it.
Yes, so we're gonna promise content. We just can't promise it on a Wednesday night basis. while con season is on due to travel, and are actually like we're starting to get pressed for time.
But you can find me on twitch.tv/Molten Ink.
What'd you say?
No. Molten
You can
Ink.
find me on twitch.tv/Molten Ink if they're not here.
Yeah, totally go watch what Rob's up to, and if you're an artist, talk to Rob, and then if you are interested in getting into the board game industry, talk to us, and we'll see what there is. I mean, we just got asked today, hand graphic designers my way, said one of our publishers, and I know one of the other publishers that Daryl and I work with extensively. The guys who we got into them are now doing comic book covers for them and things like that.
Nice.
So it's getting to the point where they're saying, hey, do you know anybody else? Because the last guy you gave us is gold. So Rob, if you want to do some comic book covers, let me know.
Hey man, hooks me up. Illustration, I'm your guy.
Yeah, man. Okay, so here's where you can reach us in the meantime. Definitely get at us. We want to work over the summer on content, on Twitch, on the website, all this stuff. Running the show constantly for the last 80 episodes really hasn't allowed us to do much in terms of developing the rest of it. So that's what we're spending the summer doing. So when we come back in September, we're going to be better, stronger, faster. You can start singing the song now, Joe. Ready?
Bigger, stronger, faster.
And on that note, we'll see you guys later. Goodbye.